Lloyd, President of CUPE New Brunswick, and you are listening to CUPE Talks in the Maritimes with Nick and Chris.
Do you have any takeaways that you're going to be taking from the courses that you've learned so far?
Yes. So I've done a lot of the single day training courses through CUPE already. And one of the most valuable things is speaking and discussing events and experiences with the other participants.
And I would love to see more members get involved with anything, whether it's start out on a small committee. We want to see,
Can you tell us a little bit about what you've learned here this week?
It's a great learning experience, and as long as I've been around and involved, I'm still learning.
I am Nicholas London, co-host of CUPE Talk in the Maritimes.
I'm Chris Watson, president of the New Brunswick Federation of Labour and co-host of CUPE Talk in the Maritimes.
Hi, my name is Brian Watson, former president of CUPE New Brunswick and now the producer of CUPE Talk in the Maritimes and across Canada.
Wes Wills, Local 380 Vice President.
Hey, this is Justin Spooner, Region DVP and First Vice President of CUPE 1253.
I'm Shelby Dodge, President of Local 3226.
Karen Tier, President of the New Brunswick Council of Nursing Home Unions.
I'm Jamie Agnew, and I'm the President of CUPE Local 963, representing New Brunswick Liquor Store, retail, and warehouse workers.
I'm Sherry Hillier, President of CUPE Newfoundland and Labrador and General Vice President for the Atlantic Maritimes.
I'm Cheryl Ann Keown, and I also sit on Local 805.
Quay, hello. This is Kathy Johnson, President of CUPE 5446.
Hi, my name is Dorinda Smith. I'm from Local 813.
I'm Teresa McAllister, Provincial President of CUPE 2745 Educational Support Staff.
Bonjour, ici Alain Soucy, membre du SCFP, Syndicat Canadien de la Fonction Publique.
Hey everyone, this is Candice Rennick, CUPE's National Secretary Treasurer, and you're listening to CUPE Talk in the Maritimes.
Hey, this is Mark Hancock, CUPE National President, and you're listening to CUPE Talk in the Maritimes.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of CUPE Talk in the Atlantic. I am Nick, joined alongside my co-host, the New Brunswick Federation of Labour President, and my good friend, Mr. Chris Watson. Chris, welcome to our show.
Thanks, Nick, and thanks for joining us here this what turned out to be, I guess, a beautiful Tuesday evening. Started off a little rocky in the day with some rain and wind, but we got some sunshine. So here.
It started off brutal. There's no question about it. Of course, there is so much to cover tonight. Joining us as well as our Nova Scotia host, who very shortly will give us an update on what's happening in Nova Scotia. But Chris, right out of the chute, man, you had a busy day.
Yeah, a little bit of traveling to do because I headed from the St. John area up to Fredericton to sit and listen to the provincial budget.
Right, and we're not going to cover that too much here tonight, as much as we would like to. Believe me, we would, but you'll see why, because Chris did catch up with the New Brunswick, CUPE New Brunswick, President Iris Lloyd, and she'll basically tell you the next steps that will happen, and we will have coverage on that budget, just not right now tonight. So, Chris, I don't know about you, brother. I know we have a jam-packed show. We've got an interview from the International Association of Firefighters. We've got Matt's got interviews. We've got upcoming events to talk about. Of course, I say we fly right over and we get to Nova Scotia and we see what's happening in Nova Scotia.
Sounds good.
Hey, gentlemen, thanks for the intro. Good to see you again, and welcome to everyone tuning in to CUPE Talk in the Atlantic. As it says there in the little graphic, I am your Nova Scotia host, Matthew MacDonald. So there's a lot happening in Nova Scotia these days. I want to do a little quick rundown for everyone tuning in. Yesterday, there was a day of action against privatized healthcare. Now, this was a nationwide day of action. It was because of the unconstitutional act, the unconstitutional law passed in Alberta that violates the Canada Health Act and introduces a two-tiered healthcare system. And, of course, that's something that those of us in CUPE would certainly oppose, because we've got a lot of hardworking members in the public system, and we want to maintain a system that's based on need, not on the ability to pay. I'll dive into it a little bit further here for folks who may not be too in the know about it. Essentially, private clinics will pull doctors, pull nurses, and healthcare workers away from the public system. Thereby, that makes people who are unable to pay for private care out of their own pocket and having to turn to the public system will have to wait longer, because there won't be as many doctors and nurses and healthcare workers in the public system anymore. Meanwhile, someone with a little bit more money in their pocket, whose situation isn't nearly as dire, can jump the queue and get their procedures done ahead of people who need it more, simply by being able to pay. So this creates a two-tiered system, and it's a slippery slope. It could lead to the style of healthcare that we see south of the border in the United States. And we've all heard lots of horror stories about that, right? About people going bankrupt and losing their houses and losing their retirement funds because they have healthcare debt, because, no one plans to have an emergency. No one plans to have, a healthcare struggle, but these things tend to pop up when you're least expecting them. So again, we in CUPE Nova Scotia very strongly oppose this bill that's been put forward by the Conservatives in Alberta, and we participated in the Day of Action yesterday. So that was a big topic for us. Absolutely. Also happening in Nova Scotia that's been in the news recently is the school library workers who work in the Halifax Regional Centre for Education are facing cuts and potential job losses because of cuts that we see, that we think are coming down the pipe, that we've heard are coming down the pipe from HRCE. Now this is going to have a hugely negative impact, not only on these workers, but also on the students in their schools and on their families. So again, a lot of these school library workers are CUPE members. So we're going to stand in solidarity with them and fight back against these cuts. Another big topic in Nova Scotia these days is the budget. I just heard Nick and Chris talking about the New Brunswick budget that was just announced today, and they're certainly going to discuss that more as time goes on. Here in Nova Scotia, of course, we had an austerity budget that was put forward by Tim Houston and his Tories, and the outcry was deafening. It wasn't just the labor movement; it was the general public that stood up and very strongly and very forcefully pushed back against Tim Houston and his Conservatives, to let them know that they weren't going to stand for these kind of cuts. And so proving that solidarity makes a difference, proving that it's a strength, Tim Houston and his Conservatives backed down. They backed down and they reversed some of these cuts because of the enormous amount of pressure we put on them. But make no mistake, people, there are still some very painful cuts that they did not back down on, especially to the arts. Of note, there was a filmmaker who was from Nova Scotia who just won an Oscar and called out these cuts in the media in the United States recently. So this is a file that we're not giving up on yet, and we hope that everyone tuning in will continue to lend their support and stand in solidarity against the cuts that Tim Houston and his Tories are forcing on us. And last but certainly not least, the NSCAD unit of our local 3912 is on strike. Their employer, NSCAD, and for those of you who are unfamiliar with that, NSCAD stands for Nova Scotia College of Art and Design. That employer is treating these workers so poorly. There's such a large amount of disrespect. This employer is not willing to engage at all, will not sit down, will not talk to the bargaining committee from this local. But this local is not taking it sitting down. They're fighting back strongly, and they're out there on the picket line every day. I've visited that picket line myself a couple of times, and I got to tell you, I found it so impressive and meaningful. And these folks, for those of you who can't afford to or who happen to be in the area, please reach out and support these folks, because these are hardworking academic workers, and what NSCAD is putting them through is just not right. They are paid far less than comparable academic workers at other universities in Halifax, and further than that in Nova Scotia and across the Maritimes, across the Atlantic region. And here's an interesting tidbit for you, and I'm not making this up. I'm not exaggerating. I know people are going to think, whoa, is that really the truth, Matt? But trust me, I've verified this. There are some workers in that NSCAD unit who have not gotten a raise since 1984. I'm not making that up. Not since 1984 have they gotten a raise. So we've got a little bit of a treat for you coming up here next, and that's an interview that I have done with Lachlan Sheldrick. Now, Lachlan is the vice president of the NSCAD unit of 3912, and we're going to get into the details of that a little bit more and allow Lachlan to elaborate for you. So without further ado, here's Lachlan and I in our discussion. Hello, welcome back to CUPE Talk in the Atlantic. I'm your Nova Scotia host, Matthew MacDonald, and my guest today is Lachlan Sheldrick. Lachlan is the vice president of the NSCAD unit of Local 3912. Thanks for joining me, Lachlan.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So, Lachlan, your unit is in the news quite a bit these days, and I know you're probably eager to dive into that. So we will definitely get into that. But before we get into that, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to maybe introduce yourself and talk about how what path you followed to be the VP of your unit there. Maybe some past activism. The floor is yours, my friend. Go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. So I moved to Nova Scotia in 2021 to pursue graduate studies. I came here to attend the Nova Scotia College of Art and Design first as a graduate student. And in that time, I was a teaching assistant. And this coincided, my tenure as a graduate student and teaching assistant there coincided with the 2022 Dalhousie unit strike for 3912, which was very successful. And I can remember myself and my peers wanting to, do more to try and support them, but also seeing the disparity between what teaching assistants at other schools were getting and what sort of their working conditions looked like, and just comparing that with our own. And so we sort of, it really started in that cohort of the teaching assistants, but we decided to unionize or pursue unionization. One of us happened to know someone in CUPE and reached out and said, how would we go about doing this? And that was sort of what's really started the journey to joining CUPE 3912. And so I was sort of involved there at the beginning. I remember handing out union cards, getting people on board, talking to my coworkers, because something we realized very early on was that there are only a very small number of teaching assistants, that we needed to get part-time instructors on board. We needed to get research assistants on board. It really needed to be a sort of a cross-campus effort to unionize all the sort of ununionized academic workers on campus. And so, yeah, I was passing out union cards, getting people involved, and then later ran for elections.
There you go. Great. And now here you are.
That's right.
Certainly not bored these days. So yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah.
So your unit is currently on the picket line. Today was today day 4? Do I have that right?
Tomorrow will be day 4.
Tomorrow will be day 4.
We'll be back at it on Monday.
Great. Okay. Oh, okay. So
I guess I'm dating this recording.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe we should dive into that a little bit, Lachlan. I was in the city myself this weekend, and I was there on your picket line on Friday, and I saw a lot of enthusiasm. certainly not the numbers that we saw in some of the other, jobs actions and in previous months in the past year. Your cohorts at SMU or the Mount, for example. So we want to encourage CUPE members who are tuning in and maybe members of the labor movement at large to kind of lend you and your coworkers some support there. But let's rewind a little bit and let's tell people how your unit got to this point where job action was necessary.
Yeah, so we've been bargaining now, since before I was elected. So I almost 2 years. I think it'll be like 2 years at the end of the month. Since we sort of formally like sat down across the table from them and really started in earnest. But the entire bargaining process has been very slow. They've been very reluctant to sort of bring anything to the table. So it's mostly been us kind of coming to the table with ideas saying, well, this is what we want, this is what our members need, and them just shooting things down or proposing alternatives. But they didn't actually come to the table initially with anything on their own. They sort of just sat back, let us come to the table with stuff, and then sort of ran down the list going, well, we won't do that, we won't do that, we won't do that, we won't do that. But there's really been no sort of positive effort from them to really strike any kind of deal. We didn't even see financial proposals from them properly until conciliation. It was actually only with the conciliator that they could get a sort of financial proposal together. So it's been slow, and it's been I would say frustrating. I can say that, yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, so it's been, and I think it's been very hard for some of the people on the committee, my committee members who have been putting a lot of effort into this, who have lives and jobs outside of this. And so we decided in November that we needed to go to conciliation because we were just sort of spinning our wheels on what remained. And in the process of conciliation, there was definitely some progress early on, some agreement on things. But once we hit some of the more controversial items, it ground to a halt. And on the day 13 sort of final meeting with them, last week, which feels like forever ago, but really was just last week. They came with a sort of counter proposal, and we responded to it. We came down significantly from our initial proposals to sort of try and meet them. I won't say halfway, but somewhere in the middle, right? And they weren't prepared to come up at all. We sort of provided a comprehensive set of our positions, and within, I would say, maybe 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes, the conciliator came back into the room and said, thank you for your time, but they're not interested in continuing bargaining, and they've left.
Wow.
And that was it.
So of course I'm going to have to ask you about those controversial items.
Yeah.
Since you mentioned them, would you mind elaborating?
Totally. Well, I say controversial because it's controversial for the employer. They aren't controversial. They're in fact quite standard. Every single other unit in 3912, part-time instructors are making $8,000 or above per course. And these are contracts that are semester-based. So you get a contract for just a single course. You have work for a 3 or 4 month period. And then you're done and you have to reapply, right? So every other unit, people are getting, 8,000 or above per course. NSCAD is paying below 6,000.
Wow.
Around, I believe for this
like we talk, to keep them motivated as time is.
Hi everyone, Chris Watson.
Province and beyond.
A good relationship with those faculty members.
Okay.
You know, I wouldn't want to, you know, I'm sure that faculty are doing their best to hire people that they think are going to be, you know, good in those roles, but without clear guidelines and without a clear and transparent sort of system and structure for how hiring decisions get made, there's no way to guarantee that. And faculty are often also, you know, operating with, you know, limited information. They make decisions based on the relationships they have with people. The hiring committees make decisions based on who they feel would be best, and that's not always necessarily rooted in, you know, merit and experience, because that information isn't being collected by the university. So we want a fair sort of hiring system that sets out very clearly who should be getting jobs, who should be getting contracts, and on what basis. Every other unit in 3912 has something to this effect. And the last one is some sort of seniority system, right? Some sort of system where once you get a course, you're more likely to get courses in the future. The more you teach, the more guarantee you have to keep teaching. Because as it stands right now, you know, there's a fall semester, a winter semester, and 2 summer semesters. So my members, my instructor members, are reapplying for their job 4 times a year. Teaching 3 months at a time, and they have no guarantee and no way of knowing if they're going to keep teaching. There's a promotion system at NSCAD, so we have what are called regularized part-time instructors, and these are part-time instructors who have a seniority system and are actually part of the faculty union. And in order to become regularized, you need to have taught a certain number of courses. And what we see over and over again is people who are able to get right up to the threshold of being able to secure that promotion, and then not being hired for a semester or 2, losing all their progress and having to start again. And so we want some sort of system that ensures that once you get your foot in the door, once you get teaching, you stay teaching, so you can rack up those credits and you can get that promotion with some sort of regularity. Which again is something that is present. The particulars are different because the situation at NSCAD is different, but there is some sort of seniority or precedence system at every single other unit that 3912 represents.
Wow. Yeah. And I mean, those don't sound too controversial to me. Sound pretty
not to me either.
Yeah. And so in your discussions with the employer, what's been their reasoning behind being reluctant to engage you there?
I'm not even sure I would call them discussions. We've proposed these things and it's a total non-starter for them. They've just said absolutely not. They're not really interested, or they haven't shown any interest in adopting any kind of policy that is not the status quo. And as for excuses or reasoning or justification, all we've heard from them is that, oh, NSCAD is special. NSCAD is different. It's not like other universities. Well, I don't really know exactly how. The work seems to be structured in a very similar way. And, you know, at the end of the day, we're teaching post-secondary education. I think we deserve the same, you know, dignity and working conditions that other post-secondary educators receive. They've repeatedly said that, you know, it's very important to them that they maintain a flexible workforce. But, you know, to me, that just sounds like they want to make sure they can continue to sort of exploit and have a disposable sort of population of workers who they can call on and dismiss as they see fit, which just isn't acceptable.
Yeah. And, you know, I think some of those arguments there sound kind of similar to what Lauren and I discussed when it was the other units, you know, whether those arguments came from SMU or the Mount, and, you know, persistence paid off there. So I think fingers crossed for a good result for you and your cohorts there.
Absolutely. Thank
yeah.
you.
Are there any specifics behind what we've seen in the Halifax as far as, the past job action at SMU or the Mount or the DFA that you've learned lessons from that you can kind of apply to your specific situation with your unit?
Yeah, I think I would say there are two things, and the first, as you say, is that persistence. I think we need to sort of just stand strong and stay on the line and show that this isn't a problem that's going away. The other thing I think is the real stark difference strategically between faculty, going on strike and part-time academics and teaching assistants going on strike.
Right.
When contract-based employees go on strike, we can't rely on shutting down the university. We can't rely on denying them their ability to do business.
Yeah.
So we need to be creative and we need to find alternative strategies to make the cost of keeping us on strike, keeping us, out on the line more expensive for them than simply giving into our demands. And that's something that I think other units in this local have been very good at thinking about. And I think that's something that as a unit of artists, we are uniquely posed to be very effective at coming up with creative ways to be a thorn in the employer's side.
Right, that'd be in your wheelhouse. Exactly. Great. So, Lachlan, for those tuning in, let's say that they're not members of maybe your unit or maybe not even CUPE members, but they want to support you and everyone from your unit. Aside from visiting you on the picket line and maybe buying you coffee, what can people do to show their support for your unit and to help you guys out?
Yeah, so we do have an email campaign, which maybe you can include the link to it. And basically, it's just a petition letter that sort of sends an email to every single member of the NSCAD admin team. We'd like to be able to just fill their inboxes with as many emails as possible.
Yeah.
Make sorting through their inboxes as time-consuming a task as we possibly can. In addition to that, in the coming week, we have 2 rallies planned. The one will be on Tuesday, starting at 11 a.m. At the Duke Street campus at Duke Street and Granville in downtown Halifax. We'll be gathering there at 11, and then from there, we will be moving afterwards up the street to the legislature to join in protesting provincial cuts to arts funding. And then we have a second rally planned for Friday, again at 11 a.m. At the Granville campus.
Excellent. Well, yeah, we encourage everybody to make it out there and show their support. So maybe let's pivot a little bit here, Lachlan, before we wrap things up, because you said you're going to be going up to Province House and joining the protests against the cuts. And one of the biggest cuts, of course, is to arts funding, which again would be very applicable to your unit. So you want to talk about maybe how that would affect you? And when I say
Yeah,
you,
totally.
and your cohorts.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, it's going to affect all of us quite deeply. I mean, I myself, I have already had, emails coming in saying, well, I'm really sorry, you were lined up for this project, but we just don't have the money to actually mount it anymore. So, we're going to have to, go do something else. I'm really sorry. This isn't going to, it won't be happening. I've been seeing that already. And I know my peers have as well. It's very common, I think, more so in the arts than in other sectors, for people to be working not only 2 or 3 jobs, but 4 or 5 or 6. NSCAD, instructors at NSCAD, teaching assistants at NSCAD, who are, let's not forget, graduate students who are paying tuition, putting themselves through grad school. They are sort of scavenging, whatever work they can find, scraping it together. NSCAD represents one of many jobs that they need to get by. And against the backdrop of these cuts, as an institution of the arts community that is, sets itself up as something that serves the arts community, it's all the more important that NSCAD pay a living wage as those other sources of funding are drying up. And the other thing I will say is that, nationwide, we are seeing enrollment in arts schools booming. We are seeing it growing. NSCAD is one of the only, if not the only, art school in Canada with falling enrollment, with shrinking enrollment.
Wow.
And I think the reason for that is tied directly to an underinvestment in labor, an underinvestment in instructors who, can't teach their course as well as they would like to or might be able to, because they are, working 4 other jobs just to make ends meet. Teaching assistants who can't devote their whole attention to that job because, again, they are, bartending at night or, working, 4 or 5 other jobs. And, NSCAD talks about wanting to keep a flexible, workforce. Well, they can't have their cake and eat it too. If they're going to have this workforce of sort of unmoored, labor who are sort of free to be, disposed of when they're not needed, they're going to leave for greener pastures. They're going to leave Halifax. They're going to go to other cities where they are paid better wage. At one time, Halifax had the benefit of a cheaper cost of living. That's no longer the case. The cost of living is now comparable to other major cities. So between the arts funding and the underfunding from NSCAD, the question has to be asked, if you're an instructor or a prospective graduate student, why would you go to NSCAD? Why would you work at NSCAD when you could live in a city that's just as expensive, but with far more arts funding and far better pay? And I think the arts funding cuts from the province just really compound that. The arts sector in this province is in crisis. We are seeing arts organizations close up shop. We are seeing artists leave this province. And I think the cuts show from the government side a profound disinterest in that, a profound sort of lack of concern with that. And NSCAD's unwillingness to pay a living wage shows that I think they are also pretty unconcerned. But between those two things, if this continues, the arts in this province, make no mistake, is in a tailspin. People will go elsewhere. They are already going elsewhere. And that's historically been the arts community has historically been a very important part of this province, of the fabric of life here. And it's something that is at very real risk of disappearing.
Yeah, that's very sad. We're seeing a lot of short-sightedness, I suppose you could say, on this.
Absolutely.
So thanks for breaking it down and explaining for the people tuning in the bigger picture. Okay, Lachlan, well, I don't want to take up too much of your Sunday evening. Maybe before we sign off, do you want to just remind folks again of the dates and times of your rallies and when they can show up and show you some support?
Yeah, definitely. So we have our first rally, upcoming rally is on Tuesday. That's at 11 at the Granville campus of NSCAD. And then at noon, we'll be moving to Province House to protest the arts funding. But then we'll be having another rally as well on Friday that people can come to, again at 11 a.m. At the Granville campus. And that's just at the intersection of Duke Street and Granville Street.
Excellent. Same time, same place.
Same time, same place.
That's great. Thanks again for joining me tonight, Lachlan. And I'll, of course, be cheering you on, and have yourself a fantastic night.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Good night.
Good night.
At Higgins Insurance, we understand that protecting what matters most, your family, your home, your livelihood, is not just a policy, it's a promise. As a trusted provider serving Atlantic Canadians for over 25 years, we're proud to offer personalized coverage tailored to your unique needs, whether it's auto, home, or life insurance. Our team is committed to transparency, reliability, and exceptional service, ensuring peace of mind through every stage of life. Let Higgins Insurance be your partner in protection. Because when it comes to your future, you deserve nothing less than confidence. The official insurance of CUPE Talk.
Well, that was something amazing, by the way, if I shall say. I think we should clear up the elephant in the room first, because it's driving me crazy. First of all, I'm actually going to bring Matt. I don't know if Matt can hear me or not, but I am going to bring him back in. I just want to say that the big screw up mid-interview there, that was all on the cat, not me. I lost my mind. That's never happened, but that's the beauty of life, is anything can happen, and anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So, Matt, can you hear me? I'm going to do one better. I'm just going to bring him right in here. Matt.
Hi.
That interview was on Sunday. I just want to ask, is there any update as of today being Tuesday?
We're not aware of any progress that that those folks at NSCAD have made. Yeah, they're still out there on the picket line. But again, we want to encourage people to support them in any way they can.
Absolutely. I want to just say, Matt, that interview was spectacular. Really, really well done, and super appreciative of you getting the time to sit down with him and have that discussion.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and it was great. And I really enjoyed talking to Lachlan. He knows quite a bit about the situation. He's a very knowledgeable guy, and is very passionate guy too. He really cares about it. You can tell. So it was a treat for me to be able to talk to him about all of that. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. I know you say you are probably going to hang on to the show, so hang on, and I'm going to get right into it with you there, Mr. Watson. We got a lot to cover. Of course, again, today was the budget. We're going to discuss a little bit about that once we get to that point in the show. But I want to talk to you a little bit about Battle of the Badges. Big event, a lot of fun. Did you happen to hear about it, anything?
Didn't get the chance to see any of it, but I certainly heard about it. And I guess I saw some, because I did see some of it on Facebook. But lots about it and nothing but good things.
So, little, inside news for you. Well, you know that, where we host our St. John and District Labor Council meetings at the Fire Museum uptown. And of course, I walked in there this past Thursday, and there the trophy was just sitting there. And I may have walked over to it and been like, oh, hello there. And, a beautiful, beautiful trophy. Super stoked. Of course, they held it right at our TD station here in St. John, New Brunswick. It was, according to Tyler, it was top notch. Everything went well. Of course, I do have that interview with him that I will play momentarily. But very quickly, what did you think of the outcome? The St. John firefighters winning.
I thought it was exciting. The firefighters, they put on a good show, and they fought hard, and they're home. So I'm excited for them, and especially to see it over there at the Firefighters Museum. I've done a lot of meetings there myself, and there's a lot of history in that room when you look around between all the badges and the helmets and that stuff. I think that would be a fit over there.
Absolutely. Now, when we come back, we're going to play this interview with Tyler Embree, the president of IAFF 771. And then Chris and I are going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about a special event being held here in St. John at the Lily Lake Pavilion that the PSAC has going on. And Chris, hang tight, and we'll be coming right back. Okay, guys, this is a very special segment on the show. Of course, we are talking all things Battle of the Badges, and I am joined now by the president of IAFF 771, Tyler Embree. Tyler, welcome to CUPE Talk in the Atlantic.
Glad to be here, Nick. Thanks for having me.
You have been busy.
It is fairly busy. Yeah. The position requires quite a bit of time and a lot of effort with the community and organizing, charity events and from everything to day-to-day operations, contracts, labor movement in general, right? So it's busy, but it's well worth the time.
It was February 6th to the 8th, 2026 at TD Station. Take me back to how this all started for the Battle of the Badges.
Sure. So we've had an active hockey team for decades now. I mean, we're going right back to the 60s, maybe even before that. We have several trophies in our Union Hall at the Firefighters Museum from tournaments that Halifax played in, Newfoundland, Moncton, St. John, and some even further. So hockey's been deep rooted, right? And being Maritimers anyway, you're going to have a lot of it already sewn into the fabric. So we wanted to we played in tournaments, but we want to do a bit of a charity event, see what that would look like. We probably have active hockey players. I'd say we have somewhere around 40 to 50 in the actual local itself, your St. John Firefighters. Some different levels. We have guys that played in the Q, Ontario Hockey League, played stateside, prep school hockey, some really high level players. So we wanted to get the young guns versus the old guns out, and just to see what kind of hockey that would look like, and if we'd be able to augment that and move somewhere towards what FDNY and NYPD does in New York firefighters and your New York police, and see if we could get some attention around it, put some focus on our hometown team, which is the Sea Dogs. We very much feel like we're a hometown team as the St. John Firefighters. So the collaboration was fairly effortless, with a lot of time. But talking to the Sea Dogs organization, Trevor Georgie being the president, Andy Childs, their media team with Breyer, it was a seamless transition from the LBR to TD Station.
There was a lot of players on each of those teams. How do you, or were you worried about making sure that you had enough people for every team? Because there were 8 teams in total, and we'll cover them shortly. But
Yeah.
was there a worry about making sure you had enough to cover every team?
You always have concerns on commitment, right? You'll always have concerns. Now, the groups that showed up for the Battle of the Badges this year, they were very professional, very classy. I really didn't see anybody not showing up or showing up short. And if it had have happened, we would have grabbed players from other teams just to make sure it was a success anyway. But no, the organizations we were dealing with, when you're looking at Kodiak RCMP, Fredericton Police, Oromocto Fire, Canada Cases Valley Fire Department, St. John Police, might be missing a couple, but with those organizations here, sheriffs, you knew they're professionals. They show up every day in the street, and we knew they were going to show up on the ice.
So when you are meeting with all the players and your council or your group of people that are going to put this on, I mean, is it hard to keep them motivated as time is building toward the event, or has it been a very exciting time?
I think it was just the opposite, Nick. It's hard to keep the dogs on the leashes. You know what I mean? They were ready to go. They were ready to play. A lot of us didn't really know what everything was going to look like, what the production was going to look like. I know Sea Dogs did, but from our perspective, it was going to be new. And I think the Sea Dogs did an excellent job in supporting first responders. They've always been staunch supporters of emergency services around the province and beyond. So it doesn't surprise me that it came together so well when you have so many professional organizations really rooting for one cause, and that was to bring some fun to St. John, to really highlight the athlete or the level of athlete we have in our emergency first responders, and potentially show a little bit of inspiration for anybody coming up young or that's aged a little bit that still has an opportunity to hold some of these roles. So at the end of the day, it was multifaceted. It was for the community, and it was also to give the respect back and showcase these members in their talents.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it did just that. For you, realizing, like we talked about the history of hockey here in the Maritimes, and I see the trophies every month that are up to Union Hall, and I look at them all.
Yeah.
Now, were you aware of so many different players for different teams that actually had like a pretty decent background within the hockey industry?
Yeah, I will say that as for fire and police, we're generally fairly well connected. The fire departments that were here were all associated. They were all members of the International Association of Firefighters, right? So, when we're away with lobbying, we're going to Ottawa soon here in April to lobby for public safety, firefighter safety, building code. When we're away, I get to talk to the other presidents and the other committee members and executives. So we have a good idea. Now, that being said, once the buckets go on and the skates hit the ice, it's on. It's a game, right? There's, we don't hold anything back, which I respect everybody for that. But we have an idea, but we don't always know who's going to come. You're supposed to be, in the field that you're representing. So if you're a St. John firefighter or you're wearing that sweater, we'd expect you to be a member of IAFF Local 771. Now, in times where, we want to make the competition a little stronger than maybe a relative here or there, we're not going to complain about it. Our whole team was all St. John firefighters, but at the end of the day, we just want a good competition, good hockey. We wanted everybody to have fun and really put a show on. So at the end of the day, whomever was representing whomever, they did an excellent job in doing so, whether they wear the badge in that field all the time or not. They did an excellent job representing who they came with.
Well, let's talk about Pool A. You had the Fredericton firefighters, the New Brunswick sheriffs, the St. John firefighters, and the St. John police. Now, did you guys all play each other once? How did day one work for Pool A?
So we saw Fredericton Fire the first day. That'd be Friday morning. It was a tough game. A lot of it, and I think the other teams are dealing with it as well, is when you put groups together and we're not playing those teams or even our team together all the time, there's got to be an ebb and flow that's eventually going to come into it, right? These were professional guys. These guys don't need a lot of coaching. They know what to do, how to do it. It's just getting into a groove. Our first day, we lost against Fredericton Fire, whom we've seen in the finals, and we're able to get one past them in overtime and bring the trophy right exactly where I said in the summer it was going to go, and it's back to the museum and back to the Union Hall. It's going to stay at home. So it worked out for us that way, but both pools were strong. It was really good hockey. I wasn't able to make every game because of other obligations, but I did make the majority of it, or at least was watching from afar, and all the hockey was great. I was very, very impressed by the levels that were there.
Well, and I'll say for Pool B, you had your Kodiak police, your Ormocto firefighters, your Fredericton police, and your Kennevicasis Valley firefighters. So tell me, all in all, let's take a look back now. Hindsight's 2020, major success.
Yep. I would say it was a major success. Now, there's always room to grow, right? So to get something off the first annual, that can be done. We can do that. Now, to keep it something that's long lasting and something that, kids generations from now are going to have the opportunity to potentially play in or remember that we have the Battle of the Badges every year, that'll be the ultimate test with everything. Now, that said, given the success of that weekend with Battle of the Badges, I think all we can do is improve on it. All we can do is was make it more family friendly, have more fun, more games, bouncy castles, more vendors open, which we had a lot there. It was great that way, but we can only improve on it. So I was happy with it. It was nice to be able to sit there and watch the Sea Dogs play a couple games as well. The attendance was great. From what I understand, even the season ticket holders loved that weekend and loved being able to see a little different style of hockey with some teams and players that they hadn't seen before. So moving forward, we're going to put the same amount of effort and we'll make sure that this is a long lasting thing and that we all mark on our calendars in February when the Battle of the Badges rolls around.
Well, I'll say this. Number one, congratulations on winning the Battle of the Badges, because it's a huge honor. No matter how you look at it, you could slice it and dice it any way you want. You just won the tournament, and it wasn't easy because every single team on there sounds to me like they were competitive, and they all wanted the same thing at the end, and that was to hold that trophy. Number two, I heard through a lot of people that it was a huge success. It was exciting. And the fact that they were all representing us, no matter how you look at it, they all represented New Brunswick. Yes, they represented their cities, and a couple represented the province, but they all were there for the province. And the kids loved it. The adults loved it. Season tickets loved it. I look forward to the next one. I'm going to be there as the president of the St. John and District Labor Council to rah for you guys all, because I think everyone that comes out and also anyone who answers the bell deserves respect. You have my respect, and I just appreciate everything that you did here.
We appreciate that too, Nick. At the end of the day, it was nice bringing that trophy home. All the credit has to go to the players. There was, the committee involved as well. Everybody on the committee, minus myself, was on the ice there. They did a great job in bringing it home. There was a few bumps in the road along the way, and some guys had to step aside and let other guys in. It was a bit of a changing of the guard. So all the respect goes to those players, to 771, how they always come together. It doesn't surprise me how it ended, but it all goes to the players. And yeah, we hope to see you there next year, Nick. It would be great to have you there and other representatives of labor. I think that's something that we really got to push forward and really understand coming out of that weekend, that unity through progress and staying together, all being behind a certain cause. That's what the labor movement was based on, and I think that these bring us all together, and hopefully we can keep that cohesiveness as we move forward and put it into other projects around our city and around the province. Right? We had a win here. Let's try to bring everybody else up with us.
Absolutely. I think that's the way it should be. The next time you and I talk, I hope we're going to be breaking down leading into the Battle of the Badges 2027. So then we can also prepare and get everyone together, because I'm going to be there. I guarantee you that. Tyler, I appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time to do this.
Always my pleasure, Nick. And listen, I'm hearing nothing but great things about you. I've always heard great things about you. You're a consummate gentleman, and you're leading St. John District Labor very well. We're very happy to have you there. Thanks for having me on today.
Thank you very much.
All right. Take care.
Attention vehicle owners. Tired of juggling tire issues and car maintenance? Meet Discount Tire and Automotive, your one-stop solution for comprehensive tire and automotive services. From top brand tire sales to expert installations and repairs, we've got your wheels covered. Our experienced technicians handle oil changes, brake repairs, and alignments, ensuring your car is road ready. Desire a smoother, safer drive? Discover competitive pricing paired with exceptional customer service. Don't wait. Schedule your appointment with Discount Tire and Automotive today. Drive with confidence, knowing your vehicle's in expert hands. Come in and see the team, and remember, Discount Tire and Automotive is an official sponsor of CUPE Talk in the Maritimes.
Welcome back, everyone, to CUPE Talk in the Atlantic. I am Chris, alongside Nick. What an amazing interview. As a sports fanatic, I had it on the edge of my seat sitting here. I knew about the whole tournament but I did know as much about the tournament, I'll say, until I watched these interviews. So this is why this to the attention of the viewers. Amazing.
You know, one of the cool things that I thought listening to that interview again and just kind of reliving in the moment when he talks about how many players had come out of different hockey leagues, even if they played university, it didn't matter because like they still played at a high level, which meant they were good hockey players. So, you know, kind of bummed out that I didn't go, but really looking forward to next year, and CUPE Talk will be there next year.
Yeah, this sounded like it was some very exciting hockey. And next year, we need to make sure we take full advantage of this and make sure that labor is represented so that we can be there to do some cheering and for our 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 kids at IAFF and make sure we buy a trophy home here again.
I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. Chris, I want to run through a few things with you. I'm just okay, Chris, you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
I don't even want to talk about this. Okay, this is what we call live. I'm getting used to this live part. Mayday High Tea, something that is being put on by the PSAC Regional Women's Committee, happening May 2nd, 2026 at 2 p.m. at the Lily Lake Pavilion, St. John, New Brunswick. Chris, can you tell us a little bit about how important these sort of events are?
Now, these events are really important. Usually when we do May Day events, it's around International Workers' Day. So it's important to get out and support these events. There's a lot of work that goes into them, a lot of planning, and a lot of good information that the considered when approaching speakers and things like that. And it's very important also, you know, as we support, as we always say, we have sector supporting sectors and locals supporting locals. So it's the opportunity, I would say, to go out and support this wonderful event.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. We talked about it. Actually, we had Tasha Celeste at our recent St. John District Labor Council meeting where she had discussed the importance of this event. And of course, we certainly got a table. And the question came up about, can anyone go to this, within the locals and stuff like that? And she said, oh my goodness, absolutely. Here's the info and you guys can see it on the screen. I would recommend that, you definitely get your tickets while they're still available. It's going to be a great event. I'm going to be there and I look forward to it. So, who knows? It's going to be a great time. And I promise you that. And Chris, maybe you'll be there. Who knows?
That's right. I will say, what a great venue as well. We've used that venue a lot of the time. And there's also a really, really, really important exhibit that's attached to that. And that would be the Ella and Frank Hathaway labor exhibit. So, if it open, it might not. You never know. But, take a pop in because there's a lot of labor history in there.
Yes, there is. There's a whole lot of labor history in there. Now, on to something else that's a big deal coming up is the New Brunswick Young Workers Conference coming up here. Beautiful St. John not St. John, Fredericton. And of course, Chris, you and I have been talking a lot about this. The theme is building power, building solidarity, and building the future. So this event is actually April the 14th and the 15th of 26 in Fredericton, New Brunswick. Chris, as a former, not that you're old, you're not old. As a former young worker, how important is this to you, brother?
No, this type of conference is extremely important because the theme of the conference kind of speaks itself. I know when I started back in my 20s doing the advocacy and the grassroots stuff of the local, you know, just getting involved, it was some of struggle, right? Because you're not sure where you fit in, you're not sure where your voice is, you know, but you get some great ideas, and you know, sometimes you just need that little bit of a push to get you in the right direction. And these kinds is exactly what that push might be. And I know it finishes on the day of convention as well. So, you know, if it's something that the local chooses to do, they could also send them to the convention itself to get that learning.
Absolutely, they could. And, you know, anyone wondering, okay, so what is the conference like? What is it about? You know, the conference is designed to equip young workers with the tools and the confidence in the community needed to take action in their workplaces and strengthen the labor movement for years to come. And years to come, again, because, and I don't mean to sound like I'm just beating it, you know, actually, I don't want to say that term. I you know, the reason why why this happens is these are young workers and these are our future, and our future is very important. And you know, we want you out, we want you to enjoy this. It's a big deal.
Yeah, no, and you're right. And again, and we can't reiterate that enough because this is where it all begins. You know, some people might go in and they might say, "Yeah, not for me," but you might go in like, and you just might get that, you know, you just want to go. So, you know, just attend, and like again, right? I mean, conferences and conventions, a lot of work goes into these things, right? So there's a lot of consideration. So get out and support the committee as well. I mean, that you know they put a lot of work into this.
Yes, they sure did. Really quick before we get to the ending of the show and your quick interview with Iris Lloyd, I do want to again talk about Alberta's Bill 11 and the two-tier, and Matt had mentioned it earlier, which I'm going to bring Matt back onto the show for a moment while we discuss this. Matt, I know you're you know you're enjoying the show, but we need you to come back to business for a minute.
Sure thing.
How successful was it in Nova Scotia?
How successful was it in Nova Scotia? The day of action, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought it went well. You know, myself and the rest of the executive board at CUPE Nova Scotia, we went to the NSGEU building. And while we were there, we saw some speeches from the Nova Scotia Health Coalition. We saw speeches by Jason McLean. I think he's, if I can remember correctly, it's NUPGE, NUPG. Is that how you pronounce that? I'm not sure. He gave a speech. But it seemed like it was impactful. You know, there was some media there. There was a lot of folks taking it in. And of course, you know, I do the communications for CUPE Nova Scotia as well. So I saw a lot of good online engagement too. So I think it you know, the message got across to a lot of folks.
That's good, because I know that I was super busy sharing stuff all over the country, making sure that the word was everywhere. Chris, being the MB Federation of Labor president, you know, what has been the overall, what have you heard, seen, you know, huge success?
I'm going to say success. I've seen pictures online of all the different rallies. I saw some of the speeches that you're referring to down in Nova Scotia. And, you know, although nothing we can place here in New Brunswick in the form of rallies and things in the day of action. So on the New Brunswick Health Coalition, what we've decided to do is we've decided to do some active lobbying. And we're lobbying, we're reaching out to all the MP senators to sit down and have discussions and see where we're going from there. So we've decided to take it from a day of action and turn it into a action and do some active lobbying here in the.
I love that. I love that idea. I think any lobbying, any rallies, anything going on to combat this issue and let, all government know from all sides that we will not stand for this. This bill is just absolutely foolishness, and we're going to make it known, and we will continue to push and push, because that's what CUPE does, and that's what the entire labor movement should be doing, because we don't need them to come in and upset the apple cart. When things are good, you don't screw with it, you leave it be.
Absolutely. Yep. I agree with you 100%, Nick. Yep.
Well, coming up next is the convention season, as we've spoken about. Guys, next week or in 2 weeks from now, I want to dive deep into the convention. Of course, we know that there are multiple conventions coming up here in Atlantic Canada. I think the first ones are coming up in April, which is St. John's. So I want to make sure that we cover that. CUPE Newfoundland is tremendous. This will be their 52nd annual convention. And of course, CUPE PEI, CUPE Nova Scotia having their 62nd convention. And of course, CUPE New Brunswick. So, you know what, Chris, I'm going to allow you to take this away as we go into people will realize why we did not go in depth with the budget. However, that too is coming very soon. So, Chris, why don't you take us away for tonight? Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you all.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Like Nick said, and as we're wrapping up, there's an interview. I did have the pleasure today, for those who follow me on Facebook, saw that I happened to be with the regional director, and I happened to be with the CUPE New Brunswick President Iris Lloyd as we went down to the New Brunswick Legislature, because we heard the budget presented today, and we have to do some digging into everything that was said so that we can properly report back. But one thing we saw, we were going into it expecting a major austerity budget, as previous governments have always presented in the past. And I will say, things weren't as bad. I mean, there's still some bad, but things weren't as bad as we projected. So you'll see this quick little clip. But again, we're going to be doing a deeper dive into it as we dissect all the information that we heard today. So on behalf of Nick, Matt, myself, and the rest of us here at CUPE Talk, we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Hi everyone, Chris Watson here, President for the New Brunswick Federation of Labor and co-host of CUPE Talk in the Atlantic, and I'm joined alongside me by a very special guest who we don't have the opportunity to always be in person, but something happened today in New Brunswick, and that was the provincial budget. We just came back from the legislature where we heard the provincial budget, some positives, some negatives, but overall a little bit different than what we expected, but we'll be doing a little bit deeper dive into that at a later date. Iris, is there anything you wanted to tell the membership before we sign off?
Just to let you all know, your CUPE New Brunswick division will be meeting tomorrow to discuss the budget and come up with some solutions that work for the frontline workers. We will have your voices heard, and we will be making sure that there are no cuts to frontline workers. Stay tuned, everyone, in solidarity.
Solidarity, everyone.
Charred Oak Designs creates custom, personalized gift products with 2 lasers, a CNC, and all the woodworking tools needed to create your perfect gift. From board games, cutting boards for wedding gifts, and everything in between. Got an idea? Give me a shout at info@charredoak.ca. Find me on Facebook under Charred Oak Designs.